In the event of any technical difficulties, which we already went through, where Zoom becomes unavailable and we cannot recover in 5 minutes, this meeting will be ended and all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the next Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee meeting. All votes today will be taken by roll call. The minutes for tonight's meeting will be taken by committee member Adrian, if that's okay. Perfect. So I will take roll call now. This time, if you would indicate when you're present, when I call your name. Mary Beth Barker. Someone's muted. Mary Beth, you're muted. Mary Beth Barker. Oh, you're muted again.
Present.
Present, thank you. Adrian Boardman.
Present.
Richard Vollander.
Present.
Dorcas Miller. Present. John Soden.
Here.
Sam Stearns. And Nat Welch is here, so that's 6 members are present, so we have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Our first agenda item was to approve the minutes, but I failed to send them out to everybody, so we are allowed to wait a couple of meetings before we have to approve minutes from a prior meeting. I will make sure to send them for the next meeting.
Nat, I emailed them to everyone about like 10 minutes ago, but I don't know if folks have had a chance to receive them or review them, but they are in everyone's inbox now.
Okay, not everyone here has had a chance to review them,
Okay.
so why don't we'll move on and please make a note that we will bring the minutes up for January 26th at our next meeting. I'd like to invite Marcia Rasmussen, Director of Planning and Land Management, to provide her monthly update. Copies of this were sent to all the committee members. Marcia?
Hi, and we're posted on the town's website, I believe, or will be, if not, will be tomorrow if they weren't today. Phases 2A, 2D combined, the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail did convene their follow-up meeting to, after all of the communities involved along the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail have approved, their select boards have approved the language for common rules and regulations. All but Acton and Carlisle attended this meeting held this past week. We have agreed on the language and the graphics for one of the signs, but there were differences of opinion on the size needed. I guess Chelmsford has a smaller sign, a single post. Concord signs are 24 by 36 and on double posts. So the Friends have agreed to install to order both sizes and will provide the numbers that are needed. There are 4 locations in Concord where these rules will need to be replaced. They are Commonwealth Ave parking lot, the Neshoba Brook Bridge parking lot, south side of Main Street at Commonwealth Ave intersection, and Powder Mill Road at the end of the Serpentine Path. For phase 2B, completion date has been extended to the end of July 2023. To allow the installation of plant materials and benches, additional chain link fence near the police horse barn, and the top course of asphalt in Acton. Additionally, for any remaining punch list items that have to be addressed. And I know that there are some issues with some of the wood used for the wood rail fence in one location. I received a picture today. So when I talked with the resident engineer last week about when the towns could begin planning an event, he asked that it not be planned yet, that maybe in April they would be in a position to set a date, but his experience has been that Mass DOT may be unwilling to host a formal opening until the contractor has completed all their required work. Phase 2C, there's been a lot of activity going on. I did reach out to the MBTA representatives in early February to ask if they needed a formal review of the proposed short-term improvement plan that has been vetted by a number of different groups for Junction Park. And I learned, I had a site visit with a representative from the MBTA, then was informed in mid-March, March 13th, that yes, it will need to have a formal canvas of the short-term improvements. And so I'm working on that application. There is a $1,000 application fee that goes in with that, so I've got to get approval from the Community Preservation Committee because I don't have that kind of money in my budget.
And that money goes to the MBTA.
And it goes to the MBTA, so. So, it is a small project, it is a temporary project, and in that the elements can be moved or relocated. So, I am anticipating that this plan will be approved, and I'm in the process of ordering the 9 planters with self-watering inserts. I'm hoping to do that this week. However, looking at the sizes of the different containers, I'm trying to match the existing containers that are out there. And the one I selected was too short. So I'm working with 2 vendors to see if I can get something that's closer to 28 or 30 inches height. The one I had looked at was 22 inches, and I thought that's just above my knee. That might be more of a tripping hazard. So hence I'm delaying ordering that right now until I can find more information. Purchase of the other elements that were identified in the short-term improvement plan are going to be ordered after July 1st when if the funds are available via Article 26, the Community Preservation Act funding, which is on the annual town meeting warrant. So I encourage everyone to attend town meeting and vote to approve Article 26. Also, the request for proposals for engineering and design services has been issued. I've received, I think, 7 or 8 inquiries requesting copies of that proposal. They are due April 6th. And the firms that are asking are good quality firms. So I'm confident that we'll get some good proposals on that. Concord Public Works Engineering Division has confirmed that they are seeking a change order to the current contract for Commonwealth Ave improvements to include the installation of a handicapped access ramp at Neshoba Brook Bridge. But concurrently, the Concord Public Works Highway and Ground staff are evaluating whether they may be able to do this work if the contractor is unable to add this to their current contract. And then after inquiries from a resident regarding replacement of evergreen trees along the path and from Willard School representatives regarding their annual service day for the 5th grade, land manager Will Holden and I walked this section of the trail from Powder Mill Road to Williams Road to assess the situation. There are dead evergreen trees, a total of 14 that located close to Williams Road intersection and the former municipal light plant site. And I will have a follow-up site walk with Public Works Highway and Ground Superintendent Aaron McCloskey to hopefully in the next couple of weeks to discuss tree replacement. And we are going to recommend an alternative, more shade tolerant species, because this is a very, if you look at the report that I just distributed, I show you where the fence is located and the trees that died. They are in shade, and white pines do not thrive in shade. So and it's all white pine in that area. It's very heavily shaded. So we need something that's more shade tolerant in that location. And then Will has followed up with the representative from Willard School to talk about the general cleanup, planting of some pollinator species and some invasive species removal in the same area near the Serpentine Path. It's really good to do follow-up with invasive species removal to have some continuity and to make sure that nothing's growing back. So I think this is going to be a really good project. And then Sudbury, I'm going to share my screen and I think I shared this with the committee members and this is their Sudbury is posting pictures frequently, so it's nice to know that they're working on getting the rails removed.
Above
Yep.
2D,
Yeah,
the little plus sign.
I'm trying. I know. It's trying to see. I've got my.
Oh,
I see. Yeah.
I have to do multiple here, so.
That's actually right by my house.
Oh, is it? They're pulling
How
up.
are they? They got to your house. That's great.
Wow. all the
And
ones-
then, second,
I was gonna complain that they weren't doing enough work our way.
It's like that right in
So
my
what's
house.
the timeline for that?
Finished?
25.
20,
well, the completion is 2025. They're expecting, so,
but it-
the railroad, follow-up email today from, Shauna Rosati, who is the, person who's communicating with me, and others, I think, who've signed up. The rail removal through the entire corridor is expected to continue for the next 3 to 4 weeks. The stacks of old rails near Hudson Road and Peakham Road intersection will be removed this week, and during the week of April 3rd, installation of erosion controls will commence with ongoing tree clearing throughout the corridor. And they're running into the same issues that we had with 2B. This is another friendly reminder that since we are now into active construction on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, people should not be accessing the trail corridor or actively using it.
Don't never do that. I haven't been down there.
Yeah.
Just calm down a little bit.
Good, a little bit. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Including me.
Well, it's even more interesting.
Right.
And I did have someone from the Stone Root Lane area who is a new resident reach out, and I will be following up with them
Okay,
later, probably tomorrow. Haven't had time yet.
okay.
Okay, a couple questions. You said, how many pots are in the Junction Park? How many planters?
9.
Why?
Is that in there originally?
I don't think we ever had 9. We
Yeah.
always had 3 or 4.
There are, we were going to use the pots at the entrance with the trellis,
Right?
Yeah.
okay, so there's 4 for those.
Okay.
And then there were going to be 1, 2, 3 or 4 in the park, and another 2 or 3 that were going to be added to to sort of guide people around the picnic, the
By the.
by
restaurant.
the Club Car Cafe.
So,
And if we don't need them all there, we can move them to the Neshoba Brook Bridge.
Okay.
So that was, I figured if we can afford 9 now, we'll get those and test them, see how they look, see if they work, see if they have the effect and impact that we want. And if there are too many, we can always move or relocate. So that was my thinking.
Bridge is over off Commonwealth Avenue.
No, it's the one, it's at the other end of the parking lot, the commuter parking lot.
as you head toward the
Yeah,
prison,
you're still on the rail trail.
you're on the rail trail. It's got the fence, it's kind of wide. There are rails that are flush with the trail off on the right side as you're heading towards the prison.
Yeah.
And there's that curb cut we've talked about, for the handicap.
It's right near Brookside Square, that development back
Still
there.
keeping a visual barrier at some point there.
And one of the things that we had talked about with the Commission on Disability, I had talked with, the chair of the Commission on Disabilities, was that we were gonna take an empty one, kind of move it around, and this will be our test
Yeah.
to see if it actually gets in the way or not. So,
Right.
so that won't happen until we actually have one or two around.
Right. And the time period is 6 to 8 weeks, so it will arrive hopefully before I depart. I see Adrian has her hand raised.
Yeah.
Who's gonna fill those planters?
I have been talking to, I can't remember the name of the current chair of the Green Thumbs. They, I think there will, depending on what the RFP brings back, what proposals come in for the engineering services, my hope is that there will be sufficient funds to pay for soil and plants and work with for the Green Thumbs to help. And I think others would be willing to help as well. So,
A lot of good compost over at the recycling station in Walden Pond.
but I really wanted the input on the species and what to pick out from the Green Thumbs, or we could just go with grasses and make it real simple. It's really.
I'm talking to somebody that hates grasses.
Well, we are open to.
That's why I wanted to talk with others.
Would you like to be a representative to the plant pot filling subcommittee?
No,
Yeah.
there's wiser people than me.
Okay.
Okay.
The Mary Beth wants to have.
Well, I see both Adrian and Mary Beth.
Oh, hi, thanks. So I know that we've had a couple instances where the completion of 2B has been pushed out, which I know isn't surprising in these situations, but also disappointing for all the people that eager to be using it. Based on what needs to be done, Marcia, are you surprised by the July date? Does that seem reasonable given what still needs to be done? I know there's not much we can do, it seems, to influence it, but in your experience, is that longer than it should take to complete what needs to be completed?
Well, I know that because the weather has been relatively mild over the winter, they were able to install the cedar fencing. That did arrive and that has been installed. And the asphalt plants don't generally open until sometime in April, so it'll be weather dependent. The same is true of the planting. And depends on how extensive their punch list is. I haven't seen the punch list, but once they complete the landscaping benches and asphalt, they'll go through everything, create the punch list, and then hopefully it'll be relatively minor and they can get things repaired right away. And if it is done sooner and the contract can be assured that he's done and doesn't have to come back, then I think the MBTA, the Mass DOT will be willing to talk seriously about a formal opening date.
We have both Richard and we have the Friends of the Bruce Freeman.
I recently sent out, I was just this week, in fact, sent out a note to a few other people in Concord. I contacted Acton, the Friends, and when I sent them, and Marcia included, of course, that's when we discovered that it wasn't May 31st. It was now July 31st. But we are in the nascent stages of establishing kind of a group interested. And I don't know ultimately who runs that group, or, you know, I suggest that we identify the Mass DOT person now, if we could, and involve them.
When I talked with the resident engineer, he suggested starting with the head of District 4, which his last name is Stedman, and ask him.
Okay. You want to do that?
Is that okay? I want to make sure that's not something you want to or should be doing. I'm glad to do it.
I don't know if he'll talk to you. So why don't I reach out first and let him know that you are interested and will be
Right,
contacting
we're
him.
putting together, we've got a
So I
committee
can-
of people from both towns. The Acton person is
So-
recruiting some other people to be involved.
You better know who we are. We're the
Oh,
Bruce
yeah,
Freeman Realtor
everybody
Advisory
knows
Committee.
that. Yeah, okay, perfect.
All right, great. Thank you.
And on the cemetery, I just want to throw in that we did have another site visit with the sort of ad hoc group that's working with Concord Prison Outreach and many other actors. It was really a nice, interesting group of folks. It's really interesting. And Marcia was obviously there. And you know, we came up with a way to look at it from a couple of angles in terms of how it's going to work. And I think we're all on the same page now. So we're ready to go with that. And we've got a subcommittee looking at writing up what would be on a panel.
Not a formal subcommittee.
No. This is the ad hoc group.
Right,
This
the ad
has
hoc.
nothing to do with this committee. I will say, you know, Matt knows this, I'm not going to be renewing my term on the committee. So I'm perfectly happy to continue working on this. So maybe that, you know, I'm the liaison, or I could have a person liaison on this, on both the cemetery committee and on the opening celebration.
We will find, we will.
Yeah, so we can figure that out.
Okay,
Thanks.
that sounds great.
And I see Mary Beth has her hand up.
Yes, I just had some questions about Junction Park and the planters. You mentioned filling them with soil and plants. And during the, will they be filled during the trial period? Because that seems like it would make them kind of difficult to move around if they, in the
Oh.
event that they need to be.
My intention would be to test the planters for a week without anything in it so that we can move them and adjust as necessary.
Okay,
You can have a site visit meeting
Yeah.
at the park.
yeah.
Besides that for folks.
That was
That'd be great.
I think that was the plan, was to try and do something, and well, we have to, we're gonna have to update the Junction Park Subcommittee, because I think we were losing members.
Yes,
Um,
afraid so.
So, at our next meeting, we'll figure out how to reconstitute that, because that subcommittee was never, terminated. Speaking of subcommittees, we also have the safety subcommittee, which is now understaffed. Mary Beth and Dorcas, I think two of you were on it, along with, Tracy, right? If I recall.
No, Deborah Edelman.
It was
yeah.
Deborah.
So I think we should maybe next meeting, once we have a better handle on staffing of our committee, let's also take that up as an action item.
I would say, as a member of that committee, I don't think there's a lot more to do right now that we can do, because I think now the big question is e-bikes.
Right. You guys, Mary Beth and Dorcas, do you have like a write-up that kind of says, here's kind of where we've landed?
No. Not that I know of, unless- well, we have-
Well, the write-up would have been the minutes from our last subcommittee meeting.
Okay,
I have submitted. So, and I would say that it was a rather ambitious plan we had ahead of us, that I think we should probably review that and see what we think, because
okay. Okay, and then I'm gonna need some help from a parliamentary standpoint of, since the subcommittee is not gonna be able to be reconstituted to vote on the prior minutes, how do we actually work that out? So Marcia, I'll
yeah.
work with someone down on how we do that officially.
I think you just have whoever is present. I mean, whatever committee members you do have present are the ones who get to,
Okay,
and they don't have to have been on the subcommittee or the present at the time of the minutes. It's just, it's sort of an official action that you're taking to approve the minutes so that they are released to the
but we
public.
do have a quorum of two of the three members, so that,
Yeah.
okay.
I've never seen
All right.
them, but-
Oh, yeah. Well, wait, I know there are copies of them. I actually have copies of them, so. All right. I got sidetracked there. Are there other questions on Marcia's report? I think I have one question. Is there a drawing of what the contemplative space will look like?
No.
No, okay. All right, and when is the service day for the fifth graders?
June 1st.
June 1st. Do we want to have anybody from the bridge cover that work? Mr. Follander, since I know you're related to the bridge?
Certainly could try, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll
I'm
leave
sure
that
the
up.
Willard people would be happy.
I'll leave that up to you. Okay, Marcia, thank you for that report. We have a couple of items of business, and I think one will take a little bit longer than the other. And I'd like to flip the order on the minutes if no one objects, which is we have a proposal or suggestion for the West Concord Cultural District sign go up in two locations. And we had asked Ms. Sussman, who is here, to provide information about where the signs would be and what they look like. And there was some question on the committee about whether, we wanted more signs on the path. So, and would you like to come up and just kind of give us a brief update on where we are? And Marcia, you have copies of the.
I'm pulling them up now,
Okay.
so
Thank you for not making me do it.
Okay, that's good. No worries.
do you want the map or the sign first, Dan?
Whatever you prefer. The sign is fine.
Okay.
Could you just identify yourself?
So my name is Eden Sussman. I'm on the West Concord Advisory Committee. I used to be on the West Concord Cultural Junction District Committee. So many letters. And
I'm sorry, and you live at?
I live at 534 Old Marlborough Road.
Thank you.
I'm just outside the cultural district. Yeah, and so West Concord became a cultural district in 2016. We're heading into our 7th year. That's really huge. Concord is really unique. There are only about 6 towns in the Commonwealth, I think, that have 2 cultural districts in the town. We're one of them. We're vying with places like Rockport and Northampton. And those towns and a lot of communities, this is just a great way to get people to, they're in someplace special. It's not just a shopping mall. It's got special vendors, special artists, all kinds of unique businesses here, and musicians and things like that. And anyway, so the signs did go up with great help from Aaron McCloskey. He's amazing. We've got 4 up. Marcia helped us with that too. We've got 4 up. And the issue is the signs are only on the roads coming into the town. And because we're going to have, and we're seeing it already, I live right near the rail trail. We see a lot of people on the BFRT, and we want to know that if they're walking, biking, pushing a stroller, they're entering a cultural district as well. It makes it more vibrant. It's what other communities do as well. And what they usually do, so the original signs, I think Marcia was saying they're 2 feet by 3 feet about, and those 4 up, these would be smaller. And Aaron knows these would be much smaller. I think maybe 1.5 feet by 1 foot. I mean, it'd be the same sign, but just a much smaller version, like about that. You got it.
Yeah.
And that'd be it.
Yes.
And
By 17.
yeah, that was about like that.
Richard is holding up an 11 by 17.
It's
Sorry.
something like that.
Yeah.
And Aaron is an expert on that, and he knows how to get them very cheaply. He indicated like $50. And we could make them painted with I think it's called iridescent paint. And that's paint that if you do shine a light on, or if it's dusk, it'll show. Because right now the current signs we have are not. And so at dark, you just don't see them. But I think it's really good because I really think it's really important to promote biking and walking. This indicates there's cool stuff here. A lot of people still don't know we're in a cultural district, and more people will know that. And also with Sudbury open, with other opening, it makes us different. You're going to, we're not Sudbury, we're going to be the cultural district. So Aaron is brilliant at saving time and money. He said, and there already are posts there. So they're posts for something else. So they're already there. So it's much cheaper, and he can get them up really quickly.
Do we know what's on those posts already?
I think he does, but I forgot to ask him, but he knows where the signs are. So he really is a sign guy, and he's an engineering kind of brain. And so he figured out where they already are. And so one would be coming into the district from either sides, from north and south, as you're seeing there.
So this is just south of Commonwealth Ave
Right.
and Main Street intersection, probably near the
big sign.
the big
post.
kiosk or the
We're at the kiosk.
the repair station. And then the other would be next to the Neshoba Brook Bridge, end of the parking lot for the commuter rail. And
Right, near the development.
Yeah.
I think I know there is a sign there.
There's a signpost, so you can put it on like, so it's just a way to get it done quickly. At the same time, I think it'll intrigue people. Oh my God, I didn't know,
So what, do other committee members have any questions? I'll start remotely and then come to the room.
I have one. I've been looking at that sign now for maybe a year. I still have no idea what it means.
Those were designed by the Cultural Council, and the idea is, that's a good question. The idea is it's an area that supports original art, original businesses, bakeries. It's not just a Stop and Shop and a Talbot, it's about supporting the arts and the businesses and individual
So
entrepreneurs.
when you say you don't know what it means, you don't know what the words mean, or you don't know what what the image means.
I'm just looking at the sign. It says cultural district, and I'm saying, so
Uh-huh.
what?
Okay.
Well, that's a question. I mean, who's the body that said it's a cultural district? Is it a state body?
So remember, Marcia has the history about this. We had to apply. It was state.
it's the Mass Cultural Council.
Mass Cultural Council.
And they provide funding on an annual basis to our cultural district to implement some of the murals that you see in West
Right.
Concord, or they help fund events. The Porch Fest event.
Yeah.
And this year, it's going to be helping to fund photography of the West Concord businesses so that they can be added to the Visit Concord website. And what else is being done? There is portion of funds are going for a new mural that is also being funded by the Friends, celebrating the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail that's going to go on one of the buildings over there.
And
Yeah.
you have to be a cultural district to get that particular.
Yes.
You
pot of
don't
money.
get that kind of money
Yeah.
unless you're cultural
Yeah.
district.
And is there another cultural district in Concord?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Downtown.
Concord Center.
Yeah, I've never seen the signs for that.
Well, that's
I've
because
lived
it's
around there for
it's-
30 years.
That's because the HTC won't approve them.
It was not meant to ever be
But we
seen.
want to
Okay.
eventually, we think that's actually great for Concord to have people go from one cultural district to the other. That's what we're kind of moving towards to, we also work.
Unless you can ride your bike
Or
over
ride
that
your
nice new
bike
bridge
over
over
there.
Route 2, right over 62, you'll be all set.
So it's the idea of coming to Concord to two cultural
Yeah.
districts, it supports the town.
What else does the town do with regard to the cultural district? So we get money from the state. Is there anything else that,
Well, the West Concord Junction Cultural District is very, very active. They are working with the businesses, and there's going to be a celebration in May, spring into West Concord. I don't know if it's a day, weekend, or
May
a week.
20th, I
It's happening then. They work to have a Porch Fest, which happens in September 23rd this year. And just to celebrate things that are going on in West Concord, and then to be a participant in just different activities. So they're working with the library on one thing. The industrial display that was a photographic display was at the library. I think will be posted at the Council on Aging. There's some other outreach being done. They're organizing a session to have shared memories of West Concord Junction. So that they are involved in a lot of different activities. West Concord Center is not quite as active right now. But
Stay.
but the funds did help support a new map for our visitors that show both West Concord and Concord Center. So along with our cultural district, our cultural
And there are cultural district people specifically interested in the community
Yeah.
celebration
Yeah.
of the opening of the bridge and the new section.
Yeah, we're.
and you're with the West Concord Advisory Committee? now?
Yes, and
Okay.
I went from one group to the other. I went to the West Concord Advisory Committee, tried to connect it all.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we can't stop it from happening, so.
If it's on I think it was on the right of way, we can make advice either.
Yeah,
or nay.
I
So,
think
yeah.
I would move that we approve the cultural district signage because.
Well, let's see, hold that, because I want to see if anybody else has any comments.
Well, I can make them, technically you need the motion on the table.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. You're absolutely right,
Who's
Richard.
got
So,
the second? Okay, somebody does. Now
okay,
we're
well,
good.
can you repeat that? So we have a
I
motion.
move that we approve these locations for the wonderful West Concord Junction Cultural District. Did I get it right?
Any second?
I second.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I was
All right.
letting it hang to
Three
dry.
people second.
That's all right. Okay, so we have discussion. Any comments from
I
other
see Adrian.
members on Zoom?
Adrian has.
Adrian?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I support this idea, especially as as I'm thinking through it more. I think that there's like a great sense of pride for West Concord to be appointed this designation. And I think, I've certainly noticed them while I've been walking on the sidewalks and driving by, certain intersections in West Concord. And I think as we view the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail as just another way that people are transporting through the neighborhoods and through this area, it seems logical to signal to those people, right, on foot, on bicycle, whatever it is, that they're also entering that shared kind of special cultural district space. So I think given they've been approved in other locations and given the long-term kind of goal of viewing the rail trail as another way to get from point A to point B, I'm all for this.
I'm wondering if it's worthwhile to think of having a QR code on the sign that someone who's interested could then find that and maybe answer the question that Dorcas asked.
Mhm.
I'm sure I can ask Aaron that.
That would just be.
That's,
just
I
sticking
can
to
ask Aaron
sticker.
about that.
Mr.
Sam,
Sam, may I note that, could you please say that you're present today so we can note in the minutes that you're actually here?
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Stern, do you have a question or comment?
Just, I think this is a great idea and will really reinforce the nice aspects of West Concord on the trail.
Any other comments or thoughts from committee members? Okay, then let's put it to a vote. The motion has been made and seconded. The motion is to approve the putting up of, I'm not saying it the right way, it was already captured, but to approve putting up the
Two signs at the
two signs
location
at the location
shown.
specified. So I will call the roll. Ms. Barker,
Aye.
Ms. Boardman,
Aye.
Mr. Hollander,
Aye.
Ms. Miller, Mr. Soden,
Aye.
Mr. Stearns,
Aye.
Mr. Welch is aye, and the motion passes unanimously. And thank you for doing this work to,
anybody would like one?
oh,
Okay.
look at that. There we go.
If you want, I'll follow up with Aaron and tell him that
Yes.
and CC you guys.
That'd be
And
great.
then just to maybe figure out what the next steps are.
I think you
mean,
and Marcia
Can
can.
figure out the next
We can,
steps.
we
Okay.
can do that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, great.
All right, that's fine.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so
ver-
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before I move on to the next piece of business, do we have any questions or comments from the public? Who else? We have
That's
a
new.
couple of other people.
Okay.
Just had it printed
Okay.
last week.
I'm going to move on to the next piece of business then, which is the member and committee structure update. As you know, terms of members expire on the last day of the month of town meeting. Just a personal aside, I don't like that, but because it shortens some of our members' terms, but that's fine. That's the way it is. This year, the following members' terms expire: Adrian Boardman, Richard Follander, Dorcas Miller, John Soden, and Nathaniel Welch. That's me. 3 member names are going to be resubmitted of those 5. Richard Follander, as he has said, will be moving on to other not as great things, no, greater things, and we have to thank you for your service. And John will have completed 2 terms, and as I understand it, not eligible for a third. But John, we also will more formally recognize your service before you go. In addition, we have, as you are aware, attrition due to members leaving town. Deborah Adelman left in January. Tracy Hansen, who is not here today, will be leaving town the next week to a few weeks. She is selling her house. And this will mean that we'll be down. This means that there will be 5 members, which is the minimum for a quorum, assuming that the select board approves the re-upping of the 3 members. And there and the 5 is a minimum for a quorum. Or 5 is our quorum, sorry, that's a minimum number of members. There are 2 steps for us to contemplate. One is to add members, and we've interviewed and are submitting the name of a new resident to the select board for membership. And we'll give a little background on him in a bit. And second, and this second idea sort of derived from our conversation last month or back in January about the future of the committee, thinking about kind of where we're going in the longer term, given that the trail is getting finished. One thought is to consider shrinking the number of required members from 9 to 5 or 7. This was something your co-chairs had a discussion with our select board liaison with and the chair of the select board on this topic as a follow-up to last week's meeting and their recognition that we may be challenged to make sure everybody's here for every meeting. And it's the second option we'd like to talk a little bit about today, which is thinking about how to lower the total number of required members, either 5 or 7. And it doesn't seem, while I really enjoy all of us and our time and the ideas that come in, it doesn't seem as if we necessarily need as many members, given that the trail is nearing completion. And our charge was to really help plan and design the trail and advise the town in that work. So I'd like to open it up to the floor. And first, actually, Adrian, if you have anything to add, since you were involved in the conversation, maybe you can kind of shape it a little bit and just invite some discussion on this idea of shrinking the total membership. And I should say before we dive into it, that, you know, nothing set in stone. I told the select board that we would have this conversation and we'd see what what our thinking was and where we wanted to go. Thoughts, comments? Adrian, do you have anything you want to start with?
I think just one thing to clarify. So if the number did shrink, it's not that anyone gets removed from the committee. It just kind of lessens the pressure of, as people roll off, we don't necessarily need to kind of backfill those positions. So just wanted to clarify that. And so this is the perfect time to do that, as Nat outlined, because we're losing people due to, all of the parameters he just outlined.
Anybody?
Well, I'll just mention that it's, conceivable that this committee could become part of or some subset of the transportation committee, I suppose, but I'm not exactly sure how they're operating fully myself, but that could be seeing so that this is put into the context of the transportation is supposed to be transportation mobility. It's not just looking at cars and trucks and such, looking at connectivity in neighborhoods, alternative ways of getting around town by foot, by bike, whatever. And that by having some kind of, I don't know how it would be codified. It could be simply that, the Friends of the Rail Trail would have someone who'd be on the transportation committee kind of representing that constituency. It's just something to think about in terms of a long-term connection to, again, it's another advisory committee, but at least it's looking at the big picture transportation and seeing that the rail trail is a part of that conversation rather than kind of off on its own. Not somewhat related. Also, I at the last meeting, I said I would touch base with Aaron at the Public Works Department about whether or not Public Works had a specific line item in the budget for rail trail, and the answer is no. But he did outline a pretty regular, comprehensive plan they have of going down the trail regularly, checking it out. And he also commented that there's a number of people who are going out there and clearing the trail just to be nice. He doesn't even know who they are necessarily.
Yeah.
And so, and the reason I say that again is that when money's available to do infrastructure improvements and there may be issues related down the road to the rail trail that would be appropriately included in that bigger pot of money rather than having to kind of go for smaller pots that could have a relationship to rail trail maintenance or something like that down the road. So just throw it out there. If other people think this may not be the time to do that, it may just be something to think about in the future.
So my take from the conversation with the select board was that it's not something we should be thinking about right now, that there's enough other challenges over there that
In the transportation world.
we're in the transportation world that they, their thought was, let's get this puppy working, and this lead, or, get it tightened up. And this led to a further conversation, which we'll cover after we talk about the numbers of 5 or 7. But thank you. for
Okay,
that.
just want to bring it up.
Other comments?
I have a comment. I think the idea of reducing the number to either 5 or 7 makes sense, particularly given the change in status, that the original charge was around building and designing, and that is complete or mostly complete. I think 7 would be preferable to 5 because it might be hard to get people to show up and be able to conduct meetings and have a quorum. I also support the idea of, in the future, maybe when the select board people think that the transportation committee is more prepared, that it would make sense to have the rail trail become part of the transportation committee. So anyway, both of those things I think are good ideas and I would support them. And I would say 7 would be preferable to 5 members.
Okay. Sam or John? John?
During my first term on this committee, we had 5 members. And Nate, you'll remember the brouhaha, but we were just going along with 5 members. And I note that we had, it seemed to me we had fewer problems getting a quorum when we had 5 than we do now. Most of the time we had 5 people. It took a major illness to the co-chair to actually drop us down to 4. So I just note for the record that the experience of 5 coming up with a quorum regularly without a problem.
So just you talked about the brouhaha, John, and the brouhaha was the fact that there never was actually 5 was not the right number.
Yeah, no, I understand, but
But
that's what we had, and that's how we were operating, believing we were okay.
I know, until we weren't.
And how would this get amended if the number? does-
Oh, the
does
select board
just
can do it they said, this is easy, we can do it
Yeah.
anytime.
Okay, you just send it out.
Just send it out,
Written
and-
thing, they say. boom.
And in fact, when there was,
Yeah.
they were, well, do we have enough people for the next meeting? Do you want us to put this on the thing last Monday? And I said, no, we should have a conversation
Okay.
about it and see what we think.
Matt, can you remind me if the, what's the quorum required if we're a 5-member committee versus what's it required if we're 7?
3 if you're a 5 and 4 if you're a 7.
Okay.
Sam, any thoughts or comments?
Just a question, just why the 5-person wasn't preferable? Is that a standard across different town committees to have 7?
There was an assumption that there were 5 members, but the committee charge had technically not been changed. So that was the only,
And then we got caught.
and then I guess at that point, we could have requested that it be changed.
Yeah.
To 5, we didn't, and went ahead and got wonderful people like you involved. So that was
Exactly.
good.
Exactly. And you're still involved, Sam. And the, we also, if any of you have read the charge, it's 3 pages. And it is heavy with planning and design and all of these things, very little, we have no more of that to do.
Yeah.
So as we were having the conversation with the select board, the thought was, well, what if we also simplified the charge, right? And actually made it reflect what we have that would allow us, if the transportation committee does become a home for us, we would have a much cleaner purpose, if you will. And so one of the things that I took on myself was to come up with some ideas, which I mailed out to you. And the purpose of the proposed purpose could be to protect, preserve, and promote the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. That's our charter. That's our purpose. And then what I sent to you, and I don't know if you guys have copies. You have a copy. Was ideas for a post-construction role. And this is a draft for discussion. So these would be maybe 9 things or some subset of these or more that we would focus on as a committee. Soliciting public input, holding public hearings, making recommendations, kind of this general piece concerning the use, operation, maintenance, improvement, and all other matters. Try to be comprehensive related to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. The second would be to work with the town's public works and public safety staff to provide input and recommendations concerning traffic and safety, related to BFRT, especially in areas where the rail trail intersects with existing roadways, parks, and railroad crossings. You seem to be pretty attuned to that. Consult with the town boards and committees concerning the use and maintenance of the trail. Conduct all of the activities in a manner that comply with relevant state laws. That I just wanted to make sure is in there. Consult with the town manager concerning the allocation of town staff and financial resources. In other words, how to keep Marcia on for another 5 years. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't in there. To elect annually, defining when at the first meeting after the town meeting, a clerk and chair or 2 co-chairs. Communicate, collaborate, and coordinate with any of the town of Concord committees on any matters that may pertain, like what we just did today, with other committees. Communicate, collaborate, and coordinate with any BFRT support organizations like the Friends and local officials from all the towns along the BFRT on matters pertaining to trail use, maintenance, operations, and policies. This is related to our multi-town thing. And then submit, our requirement is we're supposed to submit a report every year to the town. So this is significantly less than what we were tasked with originally, but there's been just some ideas. Let's have a little discussion on what people think, what's missing.
I guess my first question is staffing, because Marcia won't be here. Beyond that, Marcia, do you have any sense whether there would be staff assigned to this committee?
I do not.
Okay.
We're
And,
watching out for that.
okay,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
but the question would be, if there's community preservation funding sought, who would be the person, kind of marshaling that through the process? That's part of the staffing issue, I guess. Maybe do all town committees have a staff person or some not?
Some do, some do
What?
not.
Some do and some don't. Okay.
I think the chair could do.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so they may or may not have staff on the way that you had to do.
I caution there. Committees generally don't submit for community preservation funding. It is usually the staff person
That's why I was.
that does it,
thinking,
because
that's
the
why
staff person is the one who
it
would,
could be that there'd be a staff person who might
Be the
work on
project
something like that
manager, yeah,
specifically.
yep.
But would not necessarily on a regular basis.
So something
if the
about
committee had a
something
note-
about getting the funds,
Yeah,
right? Okay, so that's gotta be in here. Okay, that's good.
and that may be the most important staff function.
Yeah.
Not just, it's just.
That's good.
Because
Good
it's about the
catch.
money, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good catch. Yeah, still gonna try and keep Marcia here for 5 years. Okay,
I think Mary Beth had a comment earlier. I don't know if she's still,
Mary Beth?
No, I think I had a chance to express it.
Okay. Other thoughts or comments on this off the top of your head? Ed's?
So this would be voted on at the next.
Yeah, so
meeting
I think,
potentially?
I think what would happen is, if I would solicit input from all members to me. And then I would put together a draft charge for us to review and say, do we like this? I mean, we have no say on our charge, the select board
Right,
does.
but they'd want to know that.
But-
we like it.
Yeah, and so kind of review this and say, does this make sense? Because this takes out all of the construction crap and really says, we're here to protect, preserve, and promote the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. That's our
So we
purpose.
would vote on this at the next meeting prior to town meeting.
I mean,
Essentially,
if
yeah.
we're ready, yeah,
I would think so.
yeah.
Yeah,
We would vote to advise the town. Recommend that this be
Yeah.
the new charge for us. And then I think
Then
they'd
it
be
would
very
go
happy
into
to.
effect after town
Right.
meeting and.
I
that would-
just have a comment. It occurs to me also that once we sort of redefine the charge and scale things back and make it current, it might be easier to recruit members if it's not so much about design and
Right.
building. I don't know how much interest there is. I don't know if there are green cards of people who want to be on the rail trail and are sitting there waiting to be
Adrian?
asked and looked at or what.
Does Adrian want to comment on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. So we were very optimistic when we were told that there were around 12 green cards of people for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, but it turns out that those were green cards kind of aggregated over the past
20 years.
years, and that a lot of the people we reached out to had actually already served on terms with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So no, but there's been a handful of interested folks that we've been able to speak to, and some have been pursuing lots of different opportunities within town. Some are kind of laser focused on wanting to do something like this, but one so far has been passed on to Terry Ackerman, who's our select board liaison. who she had the opportunity to speak with earlier today and agreed that he'd be like a good match and a good addition to our committee. So I believe in the next select board meeting or two, so within the next couple of weeks, he'll be formally appointed. But that one person, although we landed on a good person, it took a lot of sifting through, outdated interest and things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're not wrong. There aren't people kind of lined up wanting to join. And I think some of that is maybe awareness, people know that this position is available, and others, to your point, could be reading the charge and say, oh, that's not really aligned with my interests, but not realizing it's really different now.
So perhaps once we revise the charge, we could get a little bit of, raise some awareness, maybe through the bridge. And I know we can't rely on the bridge for every single thing we want to raise awareness about, but it might be a place that we could recruit some interest.
Yeah.
Particularly since it's a different focus now. Yeah.
And I know Barbara Pike and others involved in, the Friends of Bruce Freeman also did a great job of getting the word out. And so we heard of a
Right.
raised interest because they had heard through stakeholders like that we had some vacancies.
And thanks to Adrian for the hard work she did to do the sifting and conversations. And Barbara, thank you for, as always, providing us fodder to talk to. So that's great. Any other comments or questions on this? Would everyone be willing to send me their ideas? After you have a chance to look this over, that would be great. Let's see.
So yeah, this cannot be a shared Google.
This cannot be, no, it cannot be. And people have to send me their comments directly. And then I will craft something for the next meeting. I think there was one other thing I wanted to say. Yeah, so the new candidate gets nominated next week on Monday. And then there's a 1 week waiting period, and then he gets approved the following week. He could be joining us.
So does that bring to 6 members then? Is that?
Well, that will fill in for, yes, that'll bring us to 6 members.
Okay, so the charge would then, that sort of by default means 7 for the charge unless somebody goes off prior to.
Unless we feel really strongly, and then I can step down. But it doesn't mean anybody's gonna be tossed off. I mean, I think going 9 to 5, from 9 down to 5 is a big jump. So having 7, I think is a lucky number, like 7. Okay, so I will before the next meeting have a draft sent to everybody. And I'll wait a few days to get your comments.
What does the representation look like in terms of abutters? And I can't remember what the requirements are. Some have to be abutters, and I know that one has to be from the Disability Commission and some
Right,
other.
so,
What are
right.
that?
Yeah, and so it was a member who's also a member of the Friends. I filled that role. And a butter, a member of the Disabilities Commission, and 6 residents at large.
So we want
Okay.
some of that in the charge?
I think my take would be both an abutter and a Disabilities Commission.
Okay.
So you're not going to get off it this easily, Mary Beth.
No, I wasn't trying. But I was just curious about the representation of,
So you put that in this when you send it.
Well, I will write a charge based on the same model that that our original charge was, but skinny down and updated. Okay, any other business or comments? Then our next meeting is scheduled for April 27th at 7 p.m. That is my birthday.
Who's bringing the cake?
Nobody's bringing any cake because I'm trying to lose weight and it's not working. So virtual cake is fine if anyone's on Zoom. And are we going to be allowed to be on Zoom, Marcia?
Yes, you are. The governor did sign into effect today that Zoom meetings, remote meetings can continue until March of 2025. So 2 more years.
Oh, Wow.
Town meeting start, Marcia.
Not to butt in, but are you doing citizen comments?
Oh, no,
Yeah, sorry.
we are doing citizen comments. I did ask earlier, but nobody
Well,
spoke
but
up.
I
So,
thought that was just in reference to that particular item.
Barbara, you have said correctly. I apologize. The chair recognizes Barbara Pike of,
Okay, 118 Border Road.
thank you, Ms. Pike.
I just have a couple of safety issues. One of them is the yellow flags, the rubberized yellow flags that other towns have put in their little islands at the crossings to just alert people that, you know, if they trip over it or run their bike over it, it's probably not going to have a good outcome. Just to make them more visible to people who might not be expecting an obstruction in the middle of the trail. The other is that the rule sign at Powder Mill Road is at the bottom of the ramp. And I was wondering if it'd be possible to relocate that to the top of the ramp so that people would have a chance to read the rules before they descended. As a cyclist, I would not be stopping to, you know, I would give my full awareness to that turn that's got the rocks on both sides. So those are my two questions. And also, the mural is, Margot Kimball's mural is coming right along, Michael somebody. And the friends have given some input, and I think the unveiling for that is May 20th.
Oh,
And there will be cake.
it will be, I won't be there, but
Well,
I
you could-
did. I did forward the design of those yellow flags in the to Aaron McCloskey, our highways and ground supervisor, and he has declined. He does not feel that they are easy to maintain, that it is an expense that they have to be taken down periodically. They failed periodically, and he does not recommend using them. And he brought it to the traffic management group, which is composed of police and public works. And they were all in agreement. So they will not be installed.
is there an alternative?
The alternative would be to paint the exterior of those islands a bright yellow, and he will explore that with the
Yeah,
traffic safety group.
Because the town does have a right to do what it thinks is right on each of those.
Yeah.
And I do think it would be useful to think about how to make them more safe. So if you could inform
I will
us.
relay
what
that,
they-
yep.
yeah, what they do. And Barbara, thanks for bringing that up. And then your second question, Barbara, was
Moving
the
the sign.
sign, right, moving the sign. Again, what's the town's thinking on that, Marcia?
This is the first time, well, I mean, Barbara did send it by email. I will forward it to Aaron and see
Okay.
if that's something that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in some sense, you know, when you're at the top, I can see Barbara's point that
Mhm.
you can read it there. And then it started me thinking about when people come up from Sudbury, when that trail is done. You know, where's Sudbury gonna put their trail rules sign?
Mhm.
It probably should be by 117.
I
That's
assume
not-
there'll be one by one.
Yeah, that's not our worry.
At least,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. All right. So we are, and we'll put into the hopper, Barbara, that question about the sign. And thank you for bringing that up and reminding me, I almost skipped over public comment. And so I'm going to pause. Is there anybody else in the public who has a comment that they'd like to bring to the committee? And I see a raised hand. I cannot read it.
Stefan Bader,
Who is it?
Stefan Bader.
Stephen Bader.
Um,
Can you give your name and address, please?
Okay,
Stefan
nope.
Bader, Stefan Bader, 7 River Street. I was just curious, what's the current status on e-bikes? Are they treated as non-motorized or are they treated as motorized, or are they allowed, or they carved out somewhere? I'm just curious.
You
I was gonna say they're currently not allowed, but it is a topic of conversation, and we do know that we are aware that they are being used regularly. They do promote people who have issues with mobility or other physical ailments. It allows them to move forward. So the conversation is perhaps looking at speed limit signs and so forth. And there are different classifications of e-bikes and looking at what that means. But there's been no, the current regulations have no e-bikes on the trails. And I think we need to seriously consider maybe revisions to that.
Right, and so we did, December of 21, one of our members did an in-depth dive into, I'm repeating myself, an in-depth look at e-bikes and the regulations at that point in time before the law was taken up in Massachusetts. This committee needs to tackle this issue, and it will be tackled sometime this year. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's an issue with strong feelings on both sides, but
Well,
that's what our job is.
I mean, it's a statewide issue,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
my understanding is generally, I'm not, Massachusetts is probably still figuring it out, but generally, class 2 e-bikes, which are ones that can go up to 20 miles an hour, are generally on rail trails. And as the police department has pointed out, they have no enforcement capabilities to do anything about it. In terms of at this point, if somebody broke the rules. I think it's definitely an issue because I've been using my neighbor's e-bike recently and it doesn't seem appropriate to be on the rail trail, frankly. To be mixing it in with pedestrians, and I can go 20 miles an hour with like virtually no effort. I think the e-bikes are a great thing and will be worked out, but Concord obviously can't decide one thing and everybody else another.
I would say that significant percentage of e-bikes on the rail trail now.
Yeah.
Probably
Oh, yeah.
25–30%.
It's a lot more real. I mean, I live on a busy biking road and I've seen tons more people.
And we're gonna be getting
Yeah.
The scooters and
scooters
the,
and all the other
the
things.
unibikes and
I
so
think
forth.
it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And I've seen, I think on the road, I mean, I think it's a boon because you can move along at a better pace without, wearing yourself completely to a frazzle. And you're much faster, better in the road if you're going along at a good speed. I think, for e-bikes, the emphasis should be on making the road safer so people feel good about being on an e-bike.
Yeah. I know that the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, Carly and Hempel, we've had some discussions about the next multi-town meeting, at least talking about speed limits, but
Yeah.
as Richard pointed out, the more than one member of different towns' police departments have said, we're not enforcing it because we can't. But I think we do have to tackle it. I know in within the Friends, as in, they're a representation of the population at large, there's some strong feelings on both sides of that. But it's an issue that we will start to tackle this year, Mr. Bader. So thank you for bringing it up.
I wasn't trying to open a can of worms. I was just.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Thank you.
You did remind me that
It is a can of worms.
it's a task we're gonna have to tackle.
Barbara Pike has her hand up again.
Barbara Pike, you have your hand up again, please.
Oh, there was just one other thing about the islands, and it's not totally effective, but in Acton, they've painted the interior of the island to look like bricks so that the island, the horizontal surface, the side pieces and the trail are not all approximately the same color. It's, maybe a little more subtle than painting the whole, yellow all the way around it. Though, the yellow would certainly stand out.
Yeah, it'd be safe.
We've got granite
Granted. Oh, yeah.
in the center of
I
our,
guess we can't take that for granted.
we're not painting granite.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Mary Beth has her
Mary
hand up.
Beth, you have your hand up.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of safety, there is a safety feature that I've been struggling with for a while. And that is when I'm traveling on the rail trail and I'm crossing the street from Junction Park, headed across the street in the direction of Sudbury. The location of the crosswalk is not where I can reach it when I'm in my wheelchair or when I'm on my trike. You have to kind of go off the road and in between a a signpost and something else, and it just can't be done. So, I mean, I've been getting by when there's nobody, when there aren't many people on the trail, I just cross the trail to the, to the wrong side of travel and use that button. But when there are a lot of people, I just wait and let somebody else do it. But, that's probably not ideal. And if that thing could be just moved so people could, who are not able to squeeze between those, go off the road, squeeze between the poles and, hit the thing, it would be nice. So.
The problem is the underground utilities in that location. It
Okay.
was, there's a major gas main that goes through there. There are water mains. Trying to locate them was really challenging.
On the Charles River, on the Charles River Trail, near the Woodside Hotel, near the Harvard Business School, where you cross the river going to from Central Square out. There are a couple of those things that have the button is actually extended off of the pole a foot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh,
And
that would work.
So what they did is they extended the pole is where it is,
But
but there's a panel that extends out, and if I can find a picture of
Take a
it,
picture.
I will.
Hmm.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
I've noticed the same thing crossing over there. It's awkward, and I'll go get a picture of it and I'll send
Okay,
it.
that would be a great solution.
Excellent.
Okay, Mary Beth, thanks for bringing that up.
Welcome.
Any other comments, questions? Then our next meeting of the committee will be April 27th. And I'd like a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to close the meeting.
second,
Ms. Barker,
Aye.
Ms. Boardman,
I.
Mr. Hollander,
aye.
Ms. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Soden,
All right.
Mr. Stearns,
Aye.
Mr. Welch is aye, and I adjourn this meeting at 8:13 p.m. Thank you all, and have a good night.
Good night.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Thank you all.